Today we are going to do lesson 4-4. If you're following along in your book, you will turn to pages 162 and 163. All right, the topic today is dividing by two-digit numbers. We're going to divide up to a three-digit number by a two-digit number today. Before we start, I just want to review, there's a little mnemonic device that you can use, all right, to help us remember what order we are supposed to divide in. All right, now, some people will say the D stands for don't, the M stands for make, the S stands for silly, and the B stands for boo-boos, don't make silly boo-boos. I've heard dad, mom, sisters, brothers. All right, and what it really stands for is divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. All right, we are going to use those steps and follow those steps to do our division problems. So our first example says, how many cartons are needed to hold 384 eggs if each carton holds 12 eggs? So the problem is 384, and we are dividing it by 12. All right, our double-digit numbers. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to divide, and we say to ourselves, does 12 go into 3? It does not. Some people like to put a little X up there or a 0 up there to kind of hold the spot so you know you need to move over. Now we'll say, does 12 go into 38? It does. All right, and so now here's where you use your estimation skills. All right, 12 into 38. Think of your 12s facts. I know 12 times 1 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24, and 12 times 3 is 36. So I want to get as close as I possibly can, all right, without going over. All right, 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 1 is 3. That's as close as we can get to 38 without going over. So I put the 3 on top. Now we're doing the multiplying step, which we really already did over here, so don't erase your work. All right, 12 times 3 is 36. Our third step is to subtract. 8 minus 6 is 2, and 3 minus 3 is 0. And our last step is to bring down, and so we're going to bring down the 4. All right, now we start back over at the top with dividing, and we say to ourselves, how many times does 12 go into 24? All right, it goes in there 2 times. We know that 12 times 2 equals 24 exactly. So we put the 2 on top here. 12 times 2 is 24, and 24 minus 24 is 0. And there's nothing, we just did the subtracting, there's nothing left to bring down. All right, our remainder is 0, so we are finished with the problem. So the question says how many cartons are needed. We would need 32 cartons if each one of them held 12 eggs. All right, so very quickly, I'm going to go through their example. All right, they said their estimate is going to be 40. All right, we'll see if we got close to that. So you start with dividing the tens. 12 goes into 38, as we said, 3 times. Then you multiply, and we got 36. Remember, you want to get as close to this number as you can without going over. And when you subtract, you get 2. Next step is to bring down that 4. All right, and then you start over at the top, and you say, how many times does 12 go into 24? It goes in there 2 times. They multiplied 12 times 2 and got 24, which is supposed to be written over here. All right, and then we subtract 24 minus 24, and we get 0. All right, and they wrote the 0 there. Should be lined up right there like that. All right, so therefore, all right, 32 cartons are needed to hold 384 eggs. All right, so here's another example. All right, here we're talking about crates. How many crates are needed to hold 984 cartons of milk if each crate holds 24 cartons? So again, we're going to write down 984, and we are going to divide it by 24. All right, I'm going to write our little, whoops. And remember again, the D stands for divide, the M stands for multiply, the S stands for subtract, and the B stands for bring down the next number. All right, so we start over here with dividing and say to ourselves, does 24 go into 9? All right, it does not, so we put if you wanna put that little X up there, so you know you go to the next place value. How many times does 24 go into 98? Here's where we have to make an estimate of how many times we think it's going to go in there. I'm gonna say I think it goes in there 4 times. I'm trying to get as close to 98 as I can without going over 98. I know 4 times 4 is 16, so I'll put down the 6 and carry the 1. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 more is 9. 96 is as close as I can get to 98 without going over. So I put the 4 on top there. We already did the multiplication. We said 24 times 4 was 96. All right, our next step is to subtract. 8 minus 6 is 2. And our last step is to bring down the 4. All right, and then we start over at the top and we divide. We say how many times does 24 go into 24? It goes in there 1 time. 1 times 24 is 24, and we subtract. 24 minus 24 is 0. There are no numbers to bring down, and so we are finished. All right, so to answer the question, how many crates are needed to hold 984 cartons? If each crate holds 24, our correct answer here we got was 41. That would be letter B. Now, sometimes when we divide, we might get a remainder. All right, in the first 2 examples we did, it came out evenly, and down when we got at the bottom, we came out with 0. That's not always going to be the case. This example will show us. We're going to take 764 and we're going to divide it by 40. All right, I always like dividing with a number that is a multiple of 10, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. It makes it a little bit easier. All right, so I start off, I'm going to write my don't make silly boo-boos, or dad, mom, sister, brother. It stands for divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. If that helps you to remember the steps, it's a good idea to write that down. All right, so I'm going to start with the dividing. 40 does not go into 7. I'm going to put a little X up there, but I know it does go into 76. Well, 40 times 1 is 40, so I'm going to try 2. 40 times 2 is 80, and that's going to be too much because we can only go to 76. All right, so I know it's only going to go in there 1 time. Then I go to the multiplying. 40 times 1 is 40. My third step is to subtract. 6 minus 0 is 6, and 7 minus 4 is 3. Now I want to stop here, and I want to tell you, if you are ever deciding how many times a number goes into another number, and you say how many you think it is, but then when you subtract, if this number is even to or more than this number, you know that this number should be at least 1 higher. All right, and we'll do some examples like that so you know what I'm talking about. But 36 is less than 40, so we know we're okay. All right, so we just subtracted. So our next step is to bring down. We're going to bring down that 4. Now here, I'm going to use my mental math skills. All right, I know that if I take 40 and I multiply it by 9, all right, I know 4 times 9 is 36, and if I add that 0, it would be 360. So 40, therefore, is going to go into 364 9 times. All right, so we just divided. Now we're going to put the 9 up there. 9 times 40, we said, was 360. All right, and third step is to subtract. 4 minus 0 is 4. There are no more numbers to bring down. All right, and so we are done. But as you can see, we have a number down here that's not 0. We have a 4 down here. That means that number 4 is our remainder. Now, I want to talk really quickly about how to check a division problem. All right, the inverse operation of dividing is multiplying, and so we can multiply, all right, our answer, our quotient, by our divisor, all right, and then add our remainder in, and if we divided correctly, all right, we should get this for an answer. All right, so I'm going to take my divisor of 40, I'm going to multiply it by the 19, 9 times 0 is 0, 9 times 4 is 36, tick, tack, and toe, 1 times 0 is 0, 1 times 4 is 4, and then when I add these together, I get 760. Now I add in my remainder, and when I add my remainder in, I get 764, which is what we started with for our dividend. All right, and so this multiplication proves that we divided correctly. All right, so just remember, dividing and multiplying are inverse operations. You can check your division by doing multiplication. And then if there's a remainder, you just add that remainder in. All right, so let's see what they say. All right, 764 divided by 40. All right, as we said, it goes in there one time. When you subtract, you end up with 36, which it's off again, so we'll add the 36 there. Second step is to divide the ones. All right, so we're going to bring that down. Our board is a little off here, so it's 364, and it goes in there 9 times, just as we said, and that's 360. Again, they're over there, but it should be lined up this way. All right, and then when you subtract, all right, you get a 4, which you can see right here, a 4. So 764 divided by 4, exactly as we said, it is 19 with a remainder of 4. All right, we'll do one more example. 852, and we are dividing it by 30. All right, so I know 30 does not go into 8. I'm going to put that little X up there, but it does go into 85. All right, so 30 times 1 is 30. 30 times 2 is 60. What if I tried 30 times 3? Well, 30 times 3 is actually 90, so that's too much. All right, we can't do that one, that's too much. So we're going to say it goes in there 2 times. 30 times 2 is 60. All right, 5 minus 0 is 5, and 8 minus 6 is 2. Now notice, when we subtracted, 25 is less than 30. All right, so we know that we've gone in there the correct number of times. All right, our next step is to bring down this 2, and we're going to say, how many times does 30 go into 252? Now, I know it goes in there 8 times, but I want to show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to say it goes in there 7 times, okay? So I'm going to put my 7 up there. 30 times 7 is 210. 2 minus 0 is 2, and 5 minus 1 is 4. Now, this should be an alert to us. We came up with 42 here, but 42 is more than 30. And this number, as I stated earlier, cannot be equal to or more than that number. This tells us that it should go in there exactly one more time. All right, so we're going to erase that because we know that 7 was not right. And as we stated, it actually is going to go in there 8 times. All right, so now let's see what happens when we do it 8 times. 8 times 0 is 0. 8 times 3 is 24. All right, so 30 times 8 is 240. All right, so if we put the 8 up there and the 240 here, now when we subtract, 2 minus 0 is 2. 5 minus 4 is 1. Is 12 less than 30? Yes, it is. So that's okay. All right, now we don't have any more numbers to bring down, so we are done. All right, 12 now becomes our remainder. All right, and 28 remainder, 12 is the correct answer. Nice. And again, if we wanted to, we could check it by taking 30 and multiplying it by 28. And then once you get that answer, you add in your remainder. And that has to equal 852 to be the correct answer. All right? So that is dividing by double-digit numbers. The steps are exactly the same. You divide, you multiply, you subtract, you bring down. It's exactly the same as dividing by a single-digit number. All right? It's just, it takes a little bit of estimating to see how many times the divisor will go into the number. All right, but lots of practice and it'll get easier.